My name is Benjamin Wakam, and like I said, we are on the Financial Clinic today, and we are talking about what to consider when buying a car. Is a car an asset or is a car an liability? You see, there's just been a lot of cases, especially this year, and of course, part of last year as well. I think because of the pandemic, a lot of cars have been repossessed. A lot of cars have been repossessed, and there's so many things that have happened to people, and we literally just, cars are being auctioned everywhere. Like right now, if you tell me to go and buy a car, I won't even go to the yard. I'll just go for the auction because I know I can get a good deal, and it's because of the pandemic and all this that are happening. So it just simply means there's somewhere where we didn't consider a lot of things, and of course there are a few of the genuine cases. The other thing is. Cars nowadays are considered an economic status. So if I'm driving, there's how I am treated. There's a particular day I was going to look for a house, and I went to one of the good neighborhoods. I was going there by faith, and then I went with a small car. I was still I just had issues, because guys would look at my car and thinking, this is what you're driving and you want to live here. My friend, not happening, So there's all this that is considered an economic status. There's just how people will treat you when they know that you have a car and things like that. And so there's the pressure to, the first thing you want to acquire is a car. The next thing you want to upgrade is a car. So it's literally a status symbol for some of us. So we just want to figure out right now, is a car an asset or is a car a liability? And I have with me, this is Joseph Khalif from Imports by Cairo. He's right over there. And then there's also, this is Kelvin Gathi. He's the managing director of Prologue 7. These guys are going to take us through what to consider when you want to get a good pair of wheels that is going to serve you very well. Khalif, man, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Good morning. You look like the car you're driving.
Thank you.
You only pata aje.
Gani this one? Ni kuimport tu.
Well, you're going to take us through the process as well. Kelvin, how are you, sir?
I'm very fine.
Yeah, so good to have you. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Yeah. I don't know if you've taken tea.
Not yet. I'm waiting for the Eden tea.
That's where we go. Please get a degree for yourself. A pack. It will literally be very. Calvin, let me just begin with you. Is a car really an asset or a liability?
There's usually people say it's an asset. Mm-hmm. Others say it's a liability.
Yeah.
I run a car hire and leasing company.
Okay.
And a vehicle is an asset that depreciates. Uh-huh. So on the accounting books, it's a liability. Mm-hmm. To some, when they say they own it, they call it an asset.
Yeah.
But the fact that it depreciates mm-hmm. is one that brings that issue of, is it an asset or is it a liability?
Okay.
When owning it, especially if you have a bank loan or an asset or a banking finance option, you still have something that you're having to get out of your pocket. And you see, a liability is something that takes away from your pocket. So an asset, so it's usually in between, is it an asset or is it a liability? Yeah. So many people say, once I own it, some people say, if I can have the vehicle, it's an asset to me because I can sell it or make money out of it. But the fact that it's depreciating in value, and also it needs service, maintenance, and all that, so it kind of gets out of pocket. So it's usually just the in between of asset or liability.
All right.
Yeah.
Cairo, what has been your experience, especially with people that have come to you saying, I want you to import for me this particular car, I want you to get me this particular car, especially finances? Have you just dealt with difficult cases?
Well, yeah, it's a common challenge when you're selling cars.
Yeah.
Because at times their clients will want credit arrangements. At times they default. Uh-huh. At times they're not going to pay on time. So it's quite normal. That's why banks come in. Yeah. With their asset financing products.
You know, I didn't know that I can actually come to you and we have that kind of arrangement.
Yeah, no, we actually do give people. For instance, you can come to us, tell us let's say you want a car worth 4 million. Maybe the price of buying the car in our source market is around 2 million. We will ship the vehicle up to the port of Mombasa and give you like 45 days to clear the balance. So now the problems maybe starts if the 45 days lapse and the vehicle is under my account at the CFS. So you see, it will start accruing more charges. So there are normally those kind of problems. Or maybe you source a car and then on the other side, the guy fails to finish paying the full amount. So at times you have to go back to your own pocket, pay for the client, at least make sure that the vehicle is shipped. So we normally encounter such challenges. I mean, these are common in any business. Even with guys who sell houses, their clients will say they're going to pay at a certain date, and then unfortunately they default. Especially now with COVID, those things are quite common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, there's different, Kelvin, there's different options, financial options, you know, credit arrangements for me to be able to get a car and things like that. I don't know what has been your experience as well.
There are like 3 ways you can go about it.
Yeah.
You can either use the banking finance, or you can also use the hire purchase where you go to like Caliph and come up with an agreement.
Yeah.
And there's also, if you have the money in the bank and pay it in cash.
Okay.
So you have those 3 options for you to own a vehicle. You can either go through a bank facility or through hire purchase, which is hire purchase, you put like 50% down and then pay the balance in a certain period of time. Then you have the bank finance where the bank will either take 70 and you pay 30%, or 60 and with the bank, and 40% is what you come up with. Or you can pay the full amount if you have the cash in the bank.
All right.
Yeah.
I like that part, the cash in the bank. So say today I want to buy a car. I want to get some, you know, pair of wheels for myself. How, like, what's the first step? What do I need to look at? What do I need to consider as I begin that journey?
What you need to consider is first your budget. Are you able to facilitate the payments, or even just look through and see if you're able to are you able to manage the maintenance of the vehicle?
Yeah.
And that's, as you had begun by saying, there are a lot of people who their vehicles have been repossessed, and it's because either you did not budget well or you took up something that you weren't able to pay up in good time. So like for me, when it comes to the business, I always look at what's my client base and what's the frequency of when I'm having clients ask for vehicles. And if I realize I'm able to make up with the number of clients who've asked for the vehicles and I'm able to supply and realize I can pay for it, then I go in and now work out and start looking at getting one. So the most important is taking back and sitting. Now, even the Bible says in Luke that, you know, if a man wants to build a house, he has to first count the cost. And I think that's what most people don't do, is get back and say, if this car costs me $1 million and if you're going the banking financing way and say I need to be paying 30,000 every month, am I able to make that 30,000? Am I able to finance that 30,000? And you see, not only the bank financing, you also need to make sure that the vehicle is serviced and you have insurance, you have tracking. So those are the things you need to consider. Do you have the money before I get into this transaction?
Okay. So there's insurance, there's tracking that I need to get. And the other thing you said was what?
Was the premiums you need to pay if you're going for the bank finance, or if you're doing hire purchase, the monthly payments, am I able to make that very easily through the month?
All right. So I need to choose something that I can be able to pay. I need to choose something that I can see and just know that if this is so, the first thing to consider is the payment. All right. And so, Caliph, the other thing that probably I need to look at, especially after looking at the money that I have, and then I have decided that I want a car and I am going to pay through the bank and things like that. So how do I just begin the process of now going to shop for a car? What are some of the things I need to look at and things like that?
I think then for me, what I normally tell my clients, you need to really take a look at the maintenance of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Because you see, different cars have different maintenance regimes.
Yeah.
I like comparing cars to aeroplanes for some weird reason. You see the way like an airline will buy, let's say, an aeroplane to do business with.
Yeah.
A car is almost the same thing in the sense that you will really have to look at the maintenance of that car. Because with most modern cars, if you don't do your maintenance well, that car is not going to serve you well. So you need first of all, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. Where am I going to get the parts? Who's going to service the car for me? Who's going to fix the car for me? And how much is it going to cost?
All that before
Very
I buy.
important. You need to ask yourself, like let me give you a good example. You want to buy a Range Rover, for instance,
Yes.
The cost of servicing a Range Rover is 50,000, 60,000, maybe. Are you going to afford that? Or maybe you can also say, I can't afford 50,000, but I think I would afford 20,000. Which is what it will cost to maybe maintain an Audi.
Yeah.
So you need to ask yourself these questions. You also come and tell yourself, if I buy an Audi, I can maybe take it to Garage X. If I buy a Range Rover, I don't know who I'm going to take it to. So you need to really ask yourself these questions, because the biggest killer of cars is actually not bad ownership or bad people. I mean, the biggest challenge we face with, especially the cars we sell, the luxury cars, are actually bad mechanics. People don't ask themselves that question. Yeah. So you'll find a guy has a very nice car. You bought a very nice Audi, but you don't have a person to service the car for you. So what happens after 1 year? You're now complaining, oh, I'm having issues with my engine, I'm having issues with my gearbox. But people fail to understand this car has served, if it's a used car, it was driven for 7 years in a foreign country.
Yeah.
No issues. Imekuja hapa 6 months, you're now complaining about issues. So you find people tend to ignore the maintenance part a lot. That's a very huge concern.
And the question I'm asking this morning, especially to those of us that are watching, is, guys, what issues are you having with your car right now that you're feeling like, if I knew this, I wouldn't have bought this car. If I knew this, I wouldn't have gone for this one. And, most of the time for us is once we get into problems, that is, especially with our cars, is when now we begin, getting knowledge of how these things work. I was just so I'm surprised that maintenance is one of the things that you need to look at, because I did not. The other thing is actually, Khalif, between maintenance and budget. Because you see, I think a normal person, every time they want to go and get a car, they're just looking at the price. This one is 600. This one is 500.
I've seen it with many clients. I've seen it. Where you sell someone a vehicle, let's say a person in their mind, they know they want a German car.
Yeah.
They've set their mind that they want to buy a BMW. Comes and pays for a car, but when now the heavy maintenance starts, because you see, again, these cars are like planes. After a certain cycle of time, itafika mali you need to change some heavy parts. Let's say on Audi, for instance, I'll give you a very good example with Audi, because it's a car I know very well.
Yeah.
You might need to change the water pump. The water pump on an Audi, the full assembly is around 30,000, 40,000. So a person goes to the garage, is given that deal, and they're really shocked. Why? Because for them it was all about buying the car, but they did not factor in that you need to do some sort of maintenance at certain intervals.
Okay.
The same also applies to even cars like Subaru. You go to change the suspension and the bills are crazy. Now that's when people it starts sinking in that I actually bought a car, I had not budgeted, I didn't know anything about the maintenance. So the advantage with buying from us is we normally try to give clients all these costs, introduce them to guys who won't take advantage. Because you also have to notice one thing. Some garages also try to take advantage of your naivety. The moment they notice you're naive, they start taking advantage of you.
Okay.
So these are things you really need to consider.
All right. So I'm just asking us, what are some of those things that you know right now, about your car, and you are like, I wish I had known this, I wouldn't have bought this car, or it's landed into some issues. These guys are going to help us out with this particular one. I'm speaking with Joseph Kali from Imports with Cairo, and then there's also Calvin Gathy, who's the managing director of Prologue 7. We're going to get into the technical aspects of what literally to look out for, the kind of car that you want, what it is being used for, the specs, the specifics of the car that you need to just check them out. Today is Financial Clinic, and we're talking things magari. We're talking about cars because it is one of the things that I'm very sure will pick something and just get into your budget somehow, especially when doors begin to open. D from Kiambu is saying, good morning, Benjamin. Open door season is a great song to open this segment with. I know, right? And then there's Liz Wambui. Anasema, nowadays, a car is a necessity. Nowadays, we are living in, a car is a necessity. And Kevin is going to help us with that. And then there's Michael Palmer. You're saying you're tuned in from Kisumu. There's Wambui from Uthuri. Wambui Uthuri, you're saying, if a car generates money for you, you use it for money for you, e.g. you use it for a car hire or some business, then it's an asset. But if it doesn't generate an income, it's a liability. And I like it how Kevin clarified that. He says it can be both, but then it depends with the use. Brian is saying, hi guys, great conversation. I'm thinking of buying an electric car as my first car. Is it right time to invest in that in Kenya right now? And which is the best option of purchasing an electric car? That is Brian. Is an electric car, that's the first one he wants. I've actually even myself thought about this because it looks like that's where we are headed. And so there's the thing about the electric car. Is it the right time to invest in that in Kenya right now? I don't know, Khalif, probably you can just help us with that particular one. You think we should, we're going that direction?
Yeah. The whole world is going electric. But the thing is, it's actually going to take some time. Before we have the right infrastructure in Kenya. For instance, right now, I don't know anywhere in Kenya where we have like decent charging stations.
You're okay,
are you able to hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, you see, the biggest challenge even in Kenya right now is the lack of infrastructure for electric cars. We still don't have enough technicians who are familiar with these cars to service the cars for you. Again, another big deal will also be the charging infrastructure. Say, for example, I'm driving from Mombasa to Nairobi. Am I able to charge the car at Mtito for, say, 1 hour? You understand? These are the main challenges guys with the electric cars have to grapple with. Because I know some companies that run electric taxis, like Nopia Ride. I've seen them with the electric taxis. And I've actually spoken to a taxi driver once, and he told me the biggest challenge is charging the car. Yeah, those are most challenges, yeah.
Okay. Kevin, what do you think?
Yes, I was just going to just continue with what Cairo has said. The main issue would be the charging points. Kind of like how we have petrol stations in different points. You can fuel your vehicle at different points on your journey. And so, as Cairo says, it will take some time because the government also did bring that up recently. I think it was last week. And talking about those charging points and seeing how they'll install them along the road.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so Kevin, I just wanted to ask you, now you just take us through the buying process. You take us through the buying process of the car. There's the budget that we've spoken about. There's this all-purpose thing for what we want to use the car for. There's comparing prices and shopping around. Just help us to understand how we go about that.
Before purchase of a vehicle, you have to do your due diligence. Why do you need the vehicle? For what purpose? You also need to figure out what's the engine size you want to purchase it, what kind of size you want, because that will depend on the fuel that's the vehicle you consume. You have to look around and find out what are the basic costings in different points. You can go to Cairo and find out how much he sells this vehicle for. Go on the internet, find out what the basic range is. Once you figure that out, you sit back and now budget and say, this is what I'm willing to come up with and I'm able to finance. So from there, you start shopping. You can now start going to different showrooms, look at vehicles, and then test drive them if you can. That's the most critical part. So once you test drive the vehicle, make sure it's good. If you have a mechanic at hand to just help you look at the vehicle and just make sure that it's in good condition, because kind of like Cairo said, being Africa and Kenya, we usually depend a lot of the second-hand vehicles.
Yes.
And they usually do have a lot of mileage done outside the country. So you have to make sure you have a mechanic at hand, or if you have a trusted person like Cairo and say, please give me a good vehicle. Yeah. Then from there is now you look at your 3 options.
Yeah.
I forgot to add one. You can also trade in.
Yeah.
So you trade in from the vehicle that you have. So look at trading in your vehicle or going to for financial or bank financing. Second thing would be now look at, do you want to take it on hire purchase for a period of time and pay in premiums? And then from there, once you figure that out, you start the transaction.
Okay.
Yes. So from there, once you get the vehicle, then it means now registration. If you're going to co-own it with a bank, that will be some paperwork.
Yeah.
So then if you're going to do hire purchase, you have to do a sales agreement between the owner and yourself for a period of time, writing down and make sure you understand the agreement.
Okay.
Even for the banking option, you also have to realize the things, the clauses that are in between the agreements. You need to be very careful, and so that it doesn't come and affect you later on the decision that you've made. And once that is done, there's the aspect of going through the government portal, the NTSA teams for co-owning the vehicle. And once the payments are done, you drive out and drive the vehicle and own it.
Nice. Yeah. That's a good one. So, Cairo, what are some of the specifics, of a car that I need to look out? So now at least I've gone shopping around, I've checked a few, I've asked around, at least I know, this is where cars are sold. I know the budget. I know how I want to go about it. I know the purpose. What are some of the things that I need to look at in a car? Those specs, like probably the spare part, what you're talking about, the servicing, do you give test drives? Because I would like to drive your car. I wish you're actually outside in the parking. We'll do something. I don't know, or maybe you just need to take, give us, what do they call it? A tour around your car. We just sit around, even as when we conclude, the inspections and things like that. Because sometimes we're very interesting. We just know that this car is going to cost me, probably 500, and then I come to you, and then that's the money that I have, and then there's all these things that are piling. What Kevin was talking about, tracking it, and all these things that I didn't know about. Yeah. So, what are those specifics about a car that I need to check? Now we're looking at the machine itself.
Okay, I'll tell you the criteria I use when I'm buying the cars now that we stock locally. When we're buying them in typically, we first thing we look at is the condition.
Yeah.
We first ask if the vehicle has had any previous accidents. Very, very important. And then once we are
Why is that important?
Because if a vehicle has had an accident before, chances are maybe a repair was not done properly. So you might be driving a car and maybe the chassis was bent. Yeah. There are some things you can't really tell on a vehicle. Or maybe the bodywork has been repaired. So these are things that will maybe always give you issues with it. Or maybe you'll drive it and feel something is off. You need to be a very keen driver to notice some of these things. Yeah. So first, you need to ensure that the car has never had an accident. That will save a lot of money in future repairs. The second thing we normally check now is the mileage. The mileage is very important. And when I say mileage, you need to be very careful to ensure that you don't get a vehicle that has mileage that has been driven.
Please, my friend, what is mileage? How do you get to understand that? What would be, this is too much, this is so bad, don't go for that, and a good one?
The mileage, first of all, you notice I said condition first.
Yes.
Because the condition is the basis. Once you're satisfied with the condition, now you might need to know the mileage, because if you know the mileage of a vehicle, you can get an idea of the things you need to change.
Okay.
Because some vehicles are actually tied to the mileage. I'll give you a good example. For most vehicles, you'll need to do a gearbox service at 100,000 kilometers. For German vehicles, at 110,000 kilometers, you might need to change parts in the cooling system. You might need to change the water pump. Yeah. Maybe you might need to change some seals in the engine. These are things. These are maintenance things that are tied to them. So if you're buying 100,000 kilometer vehicle, at the back of your mind, you should be telling yourself, I will need to overhaul some things at this mileage. So it is very important that you know that you know the mileage of the vehicle. So once you're satisfied with the condition, with the general body condition, general condition of the engine, you now come to the mileage. confirm that the mileage is okay. And then maybe after that, you can now check the documentation. It's also very important to know the documentation of a car. Because you don't buy a vehicle that maybe has a disc, maybe a vehicle that was involved in insurance fraud, especially for ex-UK vehicles, or a vehicle that has reported stolen. You're driving around Kilimani and flying squad boys stop you. They say that this car was stolen in the UK. So to avoid such things, you also need to check the documentation of the vehicle you're buying. This one also applies to when importing a vehicle. You need to have someone in the source countries. For us, we normally have people in the UK, we have people in South Africa, people in Singapore to do the ground for you and to make sure everything is okay.
All right. Because you're gonna
and last,
yes,
you might also want to do a diagnostics check. You know, cars are very computerized nowadays.
Yes.
You just run a diagnostics machine, and it tells you the whole story of a vehicle. It tells you the issues the vehicle has. So once you have that information, even when you buy the vehicle, you know what you're getting yourself into, and you know the repairs that you might need to do.
All right. So that's a very good one. So I will just literally ask you, Khalif, to just take us through the whole issue about importing. There's the custom charges and all these things that we need to consider before we actually going into that. And then, Kelvin, I'll also ask you about the process of how to just transfer our car, because there's some of us that just get it, from they're handed down to us, and we just need to find our way with those particular ones. So please, I've asked you, what is your experience with your car? What you wrote, right now about your car. There's this person that says, Rose, is saying, thought of an electric car, but what if power goes off in the country, considering curfew? And is back up source of energy at stations going to increase the cost? So, what if it goes, you're just driving and then the car, the battery goes flat or something, and then saying, and is back up source energy at stations going to increase their costs, And then there's a, she's also saying, is Uber, Bolt, and etc. businesses lucrative now? I'm considering the option as I bought a car, Demio, at high landing cost and not yet sold it. That's 2014. It's still going strong. It was at 760 and it's still in great condition. Hakuna hata mtu anauza magari, tunaweza kukuzia. I mean, these guys are here. Edith Mavaiza can say, can one of the things to consider when buying a car be the intended use? This, I mean, if I'm buying it for my personal use, family use, car hire services, or hailing services. There's something that I need to consider. Khalif, probably you help us on this one?
Yeah. That's a very good point, by the way. Yeah. If you're buying a vehicle, you know what you're going. You see, you're not going to buy a Mercedes and use it for Uber. Exactly. Of course, it won't make. It's very expensive to maintain it, compared to, let's say, a typical Uber car.
Yeah.
So again, you need another very key thing I normally tell clients is you also need to know where you live, the terrain of the place where you live. Place where
that's a good one.
Yeah. Some guys live on the moon. They're like bad roads. Big bottles. So of course, if you're staying in such a place, of course you're not going to buy a low car.
Yeah.
Maybe an SUV will do a better job. Because if you buy a low car and you're taking it to such roads, you're definitely punishing that car. Yeah, and it's not going to give you.
And sometimes sometimes is it that we just go for cheaper cars because we have not really tried? Because sometimes this is what I hear. This is just what I hear. That sometimes getting a Mercedes is better than probably getting a Toyota, that it will serve you more. The fuel consumption is not very far. When you look at the servicing and things like that, you will find that this particular car will give you, a good, you won't need to service, to check it a lot of times. So it looks like it's expensive, but if you really look at it, it's really what you should go for.
Yeah, it's actually true, especially for German vehicles.
Yeah.
A lot of guys see, for example, a Mercedes or a VW, they'll be like, this car looks very expensive. But you discover in the long run that especially parts for European vehicles tend to last longer than a typical Jap car. And then for people who have Japanese vehicles, there's a challenge of counterfeits. A lot of the parts in the market are counterfeit.
That's true.
You find the parts are cheap. The brake pads are cheap. They'll cost even 1,500 shillings. But you're not going to drive them for even more than, let's say, 3 months. You're back to square one. You need to change them. Now on the other side, a guy buys a Mac or an Audi, does the same job, maybe pays 5,000, but the brake pads take him for almost a year.
Yeah.
So these are the things people don't really look at. And then there's the acquisition cost. A premium is 1.7 million. You can get a decent C-class on the used market for 2 million. So you'll find that the guy who takes the Mercedes actually gets better value for money.
Yeah.
Because when people see him in the mark, they perceive that, oh, he's driving a very expensive car. Wow, this guy must be doing well, you understand? But you see, he didn't pay a lot for the vehicle. On the other side, you're driving a premium and you're still getting the bad kudharau. So people need those things. Value for money. What value are you getting for money? You've paid 2 million for a car.
Yeah.
Is it worth that 2 million?
All right.
Yeah, because cars are expensive because of demand. Like Toyota is expensive mostly because of the name.
Okay.
You can get a better on a Mazda or a Nissan. But you see, because people worship Toyota, you know, people are willing to pay amounts for those cars.
All right, the kind front. So,
The
Kelvin, just help us to understand the process of a transfer of the car from ownership agreement.
Okay. Ownership, what usually has to happen is you have to have an e-citizen account, and then you log into Teams. That's the transport integration and management system, and have an account also. So once you log in, you're able to see who the owner of the vehicle is, and it has to be initiated by the owner to say that he's transferring the vehicle to you with your details, and you also have to agree. So the government has made it possible for people to just make sure that the genuine owner is one selling you the vehicle. And once that has happened, there is usually a fee that you need to part with for the transaction to happen. And then it'll take you about 10 days to 2 weeks to have the logbook transferred to your name. But if you're co-owners with the like if you take a bank loan, if you're co-owners, the logbook will now indicate both owners, the new owners, so that once you finish paying the facility, then the vehicle, again, you have to do another transfer now to you as a person, as the new owner. Yes, so that's usually the process that you go around with.
All right.
Yeah.
And then what's the process of, Joseph Caliph, what's the process of me importing a car? You know, we always have this notion that cars are cheaper outside than they are here. And then they come and we are slapped with a tax, you know. We've just literally seen the KRA saying that they're going for those high-end cars that have been brought into the country. Just take us through that.
Okay, so the first step is you can, let's say, come to our office. We are going to help you identify a vehicle. Of course, after you've given us the budget, we've advised you on the correct vehicle. Once we identify a vehicle, we will give you a breakdown. We have to give you a breakdown so that you understand the costs that are going to be. So the first cost is the CIF, which is the cost and freight. The cost and freight covers the cost of the vehicle from the source market. Let's say we are buying a car in Singapore. So the CIF cost is the price of the car in Singapore, including shipping to the port of Mombasa. So that is the CIF. That's what you're going to pay first. And then pay the CIF, of course, you're going to check the car, make sure everything is okay, put it in a ship, and then the car comes to Mombasa. Now, the second phase of payment is now the money that goes to the government. So in this case, you have the duty and the registration. That one directly goes to KRA. And then you have the clearing and the delivery cost. So the clearing, there are so many costs involved actually. It comes to around 60,000, but you'll pay so many agencies. So that money is for clearing agent, because you don't have time to go pay in all those port charges, all those, because there are so many fees involved. So duty, the registration, and the clearing fee, you pay it once the vehicle is in Mombasa. So we pay that money to the agent, who does everything for you, or who does everything for us. And then once we have paid the taxes, we will register the vehicle in your name, and then have it delivered to Nairobi by truck.
Awesome. Sawa. So Kelvin, I think I just have 1 minute for each of you. I just want you to tell me from your experience what you have seen and what you'd advise people, especially as it relates to just getting a car. Kelvin?
Okay. For me, I just again go back to the scripture. It says, count the cost before you build a house. So have a good budget down, choose the kind of vehicle that you want, and make sure you're able to make the payments, the monthly payments, if need be, if you're taking a financial asset. And then also is it necessary for you to have the vehicle?
Okay.
I know many people have said it's a necessity, and I think it's brought about because we don't have a good public transport that's comfortable to get you from point A to conveniently the point. Like if you're dropping out at railway and you're going all the way to University of Nairobi, you're still having to think, how am I walking all that other way? So I think the public transport has made it a bit, made that clause of having a vehicle a necessity. So I think once you're able to have a good budget, a vehicle also, if it brings back income, like now, like for me doing a car rental company, whenever I buy the vehicles, I earn from them once they do business. Okay. So it's not so much a liability for me, because once it makes money, it pays for its expenses. Right. So yeah, so just have the idea of why you need the vehicle, and be able to know that you'll be able to make the payments of maintenance and just keeping the car going on the road.
All right.
Thank you.
Khalif, probably your last remarks, what you have seen and what you need to take care of.
I think what I normally tell people is I don't think there's any difficult car to own. You just need to understand, again, what you're getting yourself into. And by understanding, you can talk to the experts. For example, if you're buying a Mercedes, a BMW, an Audi, all these cars have groups. There's a group for Audi Owners Club. You can go there, talk to them, ask them, what am I supposed to expect in terms of maintenance? If it's Mercedes, they also have a club called Wabenzi or something. So you go into that club, talk to people. Again, life is too short. I normally tell clients, life is too short to borrow a boring car. Don't limit yourself. If you can afford it, if you can afford a nice car, buy a nice car. But don't feel afraid to talk to the experts. Yeah. So don't purchase a car that you don't know how to maintain, or you don't have an idea of who to consult. Yeah. So that's where we come into the picture. You can visit our Diamond Plaza 2 offices in Parklands. Come, we normally offer free consultancy. We won't charge you for that, and you can also come test drive on the cars that we have. All right. So I think, that's it. That's it for me.
Sawa. Thank you so much. Yeah. I've had Joseph Khalif from Imports with Cairo, and also the managing director of Prologue 7, that is Calvin Gath. We've just been talking of what to consider when you're buying a car. And I'll just reiterate what Khalif has said. Don't wait until you're 70 and then you buy a Ferrari. You can't even see far. My friend, you won't drive that thing. All right? So thank you so much, gentlemen, for just hanging out with me. I really appreciate having you today. And everybody else, have yourself a lovely morning, a lovely day. Please don't go anywhere. Still just hang out with me on Family Radio 316 as we enjoy some good music and have some good time right over there. Probably, Khalif, as the song plays or something, you just show us around that car, man. Because now, yeah.
Let me switch my camera. Oh.
Okay.
So it's an Audi TT.
All right.
Yeah. Let me just come out.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good one.
I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yeah. Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
All right, go get yourself one of those. All right, sawa Kelvin, asante sana. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.